Welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson. This is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
And tonight we will be reviewing The Shadow. That was done in 1940.
1940.
1994, sorry.
Hello, I was going to say we do old movies, but what I'm going to say is we did the Phantom the other day. We like Billy Zane and that, and this movie's not too bad. They did a couple of films like this around the same time, I think, and people like superheroes. I mean,
as I often said in the past, guys, there's an alternative to every podcast episode.
You don't have to see Superman in every second movie or Batman every other movie, and they bring some other guys in.
Yeah, I do like the odd new one here and there, but not every single year.
Oh yeah, no, I don't mind them come out every year. I've got kids and other people like these sort of action
but some
heroes.
of us don't really. I enjoy the odd superhero movie, say, once every year, once.
Yeah, say Christmas time, whole lot of time when the kids are off school.
Like if you have a good idea for a story or concept for a superhero movie, and you wish to roll with it because it kind of influences people, then you have an idea on your hands. But if it comes to doing it too many times, then you've got a big problem.
Boring, and then you're stretching the storylines too far and the like.
And that's all that the industry wants, because they will just employ a director saying, "Excuse me, would you be interested in doing a superhero movie instead of something else?"
Yeah. You look at things like Batman. Batman had lots of different guys that he battled. All these weird guys, okay?
Yes, he did.
Superman didn't have quite as many weird guys. He had Lex Luthor and a few guys, and Brainiac, and just ordinary criminals. And the odd little funny thing, friend. So Batman had more. The Batman stories had more to draw on. Now these guys here, like the Phantom. Well, Phantom, he runs around. He's just an ordinary superhero guy. Nothing major going on. So one movie was probably enough they can get out of the Phantom without going stupid. And I'd say The Shadow would fall in that too. I mean, you got a guy who is you got his history in here. He's come to America, come back home, taking up his place in society to be a crime fighter. And it's not over the top weirdo stuff. So, you churn and burn the one story and then walk away and do something new. Now, before we go too far into it, I'll introduce everybody, and then Sarah can go yabba 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 and tell you the whole story. Now, this one here, The Shadow, was produced by Martin Bregman, Michael Bregman, and Willie Bayer. Directed by Russell Mulcahy. I wonder if he's related to Father Mulcahy and MASH. No. Okay. Screenplay by David Cope. It was based on The Shadow by Walter Gibson. Now, budget, and this is interesting. The budget was $40 million, and actually they had good sets and everything else, and yada yada yada. They made $48 million at the box office.
So they have a bit of $8 million left to spare.
Yeah, but the point is, it should have made more money, but it was a matter of timing because some other good movies came out at the same time and pulled the people away from that theatre and went somewhere else to spend their hard-earned cash. I think from memory you had The Lion King and The Mask hit the theatres at the same time. And, I like The Mask, the Jim Carrey movie, that was quite funny.
Was awesome.
That was very, very funny. And that would have drawn people into that movie quite easily. And The Lion King, hey, come on, who doesn't like a good animated feature? Come on, and that just pull the people away. This could have done a lot better box office, and even the critics weren't too nasty with it.
True.
So they thought it was pretty good too. It's just that wrong timing.
And not to mention, if I were, say, I don't know what age I think. Let me see. I was probably about say 9 when this came out.
What year was it? 94? Yeah, 8 or 9. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would probably no doubt back then would have thought the shadow was the enemy because he's sinister. He laughs very
Mechanically,
mechanically,
not mechanically,
you know,
in a
sinisterly.
sinister manner. Yeah, sorry,
And
maniacally.
I would
That's what
be
I'm looking
well.
for, yeah.
I would just be worried he's the enemy or the
Well,
bad guy.
no, he was a good bad. He's a bad good guy because he came from a bad place, and he was redeemed by that Asian guy, that teacher,
Tibetan monk.
monk, whatever. And he said he got over his bad bits and became a good guy, but he still remembered his past.
Yeah.
So he knew what was in the hearts of the evil guys.
Yeah.
Of course, he'd been there himself.
Yeah. So who stars in it? I know.
No, there's a whole slew of people. I'm going to just stick to the main ones that I think are relevant to the storyline. Alec Baldwin plays Lamont Cranston, alias the Shadow.
I think someone else played the shadow, but I can't find out who he was.
Well, yeah, honestly, I've had a look. I can't find out whether he had a double, because when he got dressed up as the Shadow, he did close-ups. His eyes, his eyebrows, his nose, everything was a tad different. But in saying that, when he was being trained by this monk up in Tibet, he said, "We'll teach you to control people's minds and change the way you look." So maybe they might have done a bit of makeup on him.
Maybe.
And done sort of morphing transition.
That too.
Yeah, to make it look
But
good.
I just wish there was no information that
yeah,
indicate
can't find anything about it, yeah.
whether or not he had a plastic
look,
prosthetics, on his face
could
or
be,
anything
yeah,
like that.
a bit of latex on his nose and bushy eyebrows and whatever. Anyway, moving right along, John Leone plays Shiwan Khan. He's a descendant, well, I think the last descendant from Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
He's the naughty guy in the movie.
Yeah, the wicked guy.
Who wants to take over the world. There's always room for one more. Penelope Ann Miller plays Margot Lane.
Yeah.
What if she's related to Lois Lane? Lois.
I doubt it. I know for a fact that Penelope, she was also in Witch Hunt. We did a review on that last year.
Yeah, but that was the cast did Dispel was the first movie, but she was in the second movie with Dennis Hopper.
Yeah.
Dennis Hopper played the lead, I think. Yeah. Anyway, but there's a few other people here, but I'll just go straight to the other one. Tim Curry. Mm-hmm. He plays Farley Claymore, and Farley Claymore is the assistant to a scientist. The scientist is a really nice guy, but
and his
Farley's a bit...
Yeah.
Okay, I'll mention him in a minute.
Okay.
But Farley is more of a money-hungry, bent guy who would like to do anything to get rich. Now, but he's working for Dr. Reinhardt Lane, which is Margot's dad, and he's played by Ian McKellen, who's well known.
Yeah,
actually, didn't he
Ian.
play Gandalf in?
Yes.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, in the Lord of the Rings movies.
And
yeah,
he's done a lot of other movies in the past and present.
Yeah, he's done a few things. Anyway, I was going to say irrespective.
Uh-huh.
Moving right along, folks. I think I'll pass it over to Sarah now to enlighten you as to the storyline.
Yeah, so I'll try to... Keep
you enthralled.
Keep you enthralled. So it begins with Lim. What's his name again? The Shadow's name again?
Lamont.
Lamont. Who's a wealthy and evil, twisted, tyrant in Tibet.
Actually, I think his storyline goes something like this. I think he went from America, and he was in World War II. I think it was World War II, and after the war, he stayed in Asia and became a bit like a drug lord or
opium warlord.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. And he spent a few years over there being a cartel leader, but he was redeemed by his monk. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, the monk followers kidnap him and try to redeem him, which they succeed. And he then returns to America with all this new knowledge and fights evil with it. Unfortunately, these newfound powers, thanks to his horrible sins he did in the past, it cannot conceive his shadow. So he usually fights at nighttime and stuff
Yes,
like
yeah.
that.
He can hypnotise people into not seeing him and read minds a little bit and other good groovy things, but yeah, they will not see him, but they might see his shadow if the light's going in the right direction. So
Yeah.
you've got to be very careful, hey guys.
Yeah, but he has some interesting powers as I will proceed on. So, he saves this man who's a scientist who's going to look at who's wearing concrete slippers and was going to be thrown over,
Science or a doctor or something, yeah.
thrown overboard by some gangsters.
Throw over a bridge, not
Yeah.
overboard.
Throw over.
He had concrete slippers on, folks, and this naughty guy, and he wasn't a police guy, police chief,
No, I think he was a mobster.
mobster. Okay, sorry, he's a mobster, yeah.
Yeah, the mobster wants to, because he witnessed something or
He looked down the wrong alley.
yeah. So he witnessed something and he's planning on dumping the poor man. But fortunately, our phantom shadow appears and...
Don't use the word fan, we get everybody confused now.
Okay, sorry. The shadow appears. He laughs very creepily, and then he taunts the main gangster, and he starts shooting wildly everywhere.
And he missed him every time.
Eventually, he appears, or not really appears. He actually is invisible, and he still pounds
You
him.
can see a bit of a shadow for obviously so
5
people can
seconds.
see what's going on, and you see a bit of a shape of him and a mist, and you see a fist come out and bop him on the nose, but in the end he dragged him to the railing and dangles him by his leg
Yeah,
and say,
saying-
"You're going to take yourself to the police station and turn yourself in, aren't you?" Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't want to die.
And I don't want to die.
But eventually, he
Yeah.
slings him into the windshield and
And breaks the car.
glass.
Yeah.
And then he finally appears to his associates, and they run. Well, just
Yeah,
ran.
well, they see him appear, and he must be a ghost or something or other, so they ran away. Yeah,
Yeah, and then dear old Shadow, he approaches the scientist guy
Of the
and,
concrete slippers.
takes out his guns and starts shooting at the concrete slab under his
and
on his
lo and
feet.
behold, he breaks the concrete without even damaging the guy's toenails.
And eventually, a taxi rolls up, and both the Shadow and the man head inside the taxi. And he then tells the scientist that I saved your life. Now
You are mine.
You are mine.
And not in a nasty way. So
Not a
the
Dracula
shadow
way.
The shadow has saved a lot of people, and what happens is, selected ones he saves, he makes agents who assist him in his work.
Yeah, so he's now an agent, and they give him a special ruby ring, I
Oh
think.
yeah, red ring, which glows sometimes when
Yeah.
he's needed and that
Yeah,
sort of stuff. Yeah.
and so he takes his leave off to his to see his uncle at a club, I
For
think,
din-dins?
for din-dins, and
Oh, by the way, he's playing the role of a bit of a playboy type. Now, there's no mention of how he gets his money, considering he hasn't got a mother or a father. He's been abroad for years and years, being a drug lord. We don't know where he gets his money from.
he
But
may have inherited it from mum or dad.
well, I don't know, but a
if
bit like
he-
a Bruce Wayne job, probably.
Yeah.
But no one ever says anything about where he came from. But what's his father? His uncle do?
his uncle is a police chief.
That's right. Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
police chief, and he wants him to be more of a man and join society instead of being a wasteful playboy.
Yeah, because he says that after the war he disappeared for so many years with the drug cartel and the time at the monastery or whatever,
Whatever.
or not the monastery, they're just the Tibetan area.
He went in training for a couple of years,
Yes.
probably.
And then while they're talking, in walks in none other than Margot Lane, the most beautifulest woman that Lamont ever seen.
Well, she's quite cute.
Yeah, well, she suits that period, I guarantee
Well,
you.
I was going to say, she does look. She's been in a couple of period movies, as to the Cast Deadly Spell thing or whatever, whatever it's called. And this one, and she does do the period.
Well, this is
look
noir,
quite nicely, yeah.
right, Mike?
Well, it's like film noir, but probably it's called new noir.
Yes.
How's that?
So
Yeah.
as they were talking, his uncle mentioned that about the Phantom and says he's going to arrange a task force to take him down. But luckily for us, Lamont was able to use his mind powers to alter the conversation. And then he gets him to talk about Margot, and he says that her father's a scientist, and she's a really strange one because she hears voices. So
Yeah,
they say.
So no one believes that she hears voices, but the thing is, she's got ESP.
Yeah.
As he picks up on people around her, you having a thought, she actually hears it.
Yeah,
So,
and Lamont takes her out for dinner, and there he gets an encounter with her psychic powers, where he was looking at a dress and he was commenting on her dress in his head.
Yeah, he made her a nice dress and said, "Oh, thank you," or something or other.
Yeah, yeah. As he drives her home, he then tells his taxi driver, which is like another agent of his, and tells him that
Actually, all these guys go around in taxis, and I figured it out last night. I was sitting down there laying in bed. No one can get a parking space for a car in New York, so
No.
it just stands to reason everyone just hops a cab to go somewhere. Yeah.
yes. Anyway, I often think that the taxi driver owes him his life,
He
so
probably saved his life. Yeah.
yeah, and doesn't care if he gets paid or not.
Well, he might pay him off a little bit occasionally, a petrol, running
Yeah.
expenses.
Anyway, moving back on.
Carry on, carry on.
So Lamont tells him that he's not planning on seeing Margot again because she's too dangerous for him.
Yeah. Because she can read his mind. She'll find out who he is and what he's doing.
Yeah, and whether or not she will be easily swayed is a matter of, well, it's just a matter of working out if whether or not she can be swayed, which I doubt it.
Ooh, who knows? You never know your luck.
Later-
Maybe as the story unfolds,
Yeah,
it
later
will
that
all
night-
be revealed.
Later that night, he's sleeping in his lounge room, and then he hears a possible that my danger is coming sort of message. So, well, anyway, moving on. So, meanwhile, while this is happening, at a museum, there was a delivery of a sort of silverish coffin that came
sarcophagus.
from
Yeah.
sarcophagus
Yeah.
that came from Tibet.
And they weren't expecting a delivery, and it
Yeah,
was supposed
and
to
the
be.
delivery guy is gone and disappeared.
Yeah, and they don't know where it came from. They realised, oh, it's made out of silver. It looks like it was the sarcophagus of Genghis Khan.
Only
And-
one problem here. Why is it written in Latin? I don't think they would have.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing that Sarah raised. It was actually had Latin words on the sarcophagus
Because he's-
instead of Tibetan.
Because Sher Khan is Asian, and why would he be speaking in writing in
Who's
Latin?
Shikan?
Yeah, if this is Genghis, I mean, not Sher Khan. I mean,
Yeah.
if this is Genghis Khan,
Yeah.
sorry,
They would have
he would
used
have
the local language
yeah.
when they made the sarcophagus.
exactly. It's just like one of those things I've often have mentioned in the past, where they would use either Latin or another or Egyptian, and they never think about whether or not
It was relevant.
plays a relevant thing here.
However, maybe contracted some ancient Romans to make it for him.
Maybe, but it doesn't make sense anyway.
Anyway,
Moving along. So, the head of the museum owner decides to make a phone call and leaves his security man alone with this sarcophagus. But suddenly the sarcophagus starts shifting and moving, and then it soon pops open.
yeah.
And there in it is a man in armor, none other than what's his name?
Shiwan Khan, which is this descendant, the last descendant of Genghis Khan,
And-
who wants to take over the family business.
Yeah, and he makes, in using his mind control powers, to kill the guard.
Yeah, he said
Blow his head off.
Yeah, he sort of made him commit suicide.
Yes. Anyway, then the men appear and Shiwan Khan,
Shiwan Khan.
Shiwan Khan
Whatever.
disappears. Meanwhile, while this is happening, he then takes a taxi to an area, and he tells the driver not to. He was worried about his location being recorded.
The taxi driver was keeping a manual record of pickups and drop-offs, which is legal, like a legal responsibility, and he didn't want anyone to know where he went, so he made the taxi driver commit suicide.
Yeah, he blew himself up.
Yeah, he drove into a fuel truck.
Yeah, killing himself instantly.
Yeah, crispy critter time. Yeah.
Yes. Then moving on, so So the report of the security guard getting murdered is reached to the police, and one of the agents is a policeman, goes to a secret spot in the building and sends a message to one of the other agents of the Shadow.
The male guy.
Yeah,
The Shadow's got this funny mail system through the town. You'd think people would know it was there, with all these pipes going all over the place.
Yeah, well, it can be
But
mistaken
he
for.
he has a mail exchange for getting snippets of
Yeah.
information from his people. Yeah.
It could be mistaken for a water pipe or something, because it looks like the same size as a water pipe.
Yeah, but it's pretty damn obvious. But I mean,
Yeah,
well,
so anyway, it goes through this whole system of pipes all over the town, and soon it arrives at this unknown location where another member, no man, I don't know his name.
this is kind of the mailman.
Yes.
Postmaster
And
General,
he reads the
whatever.
note from that one of those agents, and he contacts Lamont and he goes down to his inner sanctum, which is inside some other buildings.
Yeah, this little sneaky doorway through a wall.
Yeah, and of course he tells him that the security man got badly murdered at a museum somewhere.
Well, I think he was. It was reported to be suicide, but we think otherwise, obviously, because it's, Lamont's confidant in the police force told him, "Hey, it looks suspicious."
Yeah. So, but then while he's thinking on this thought, he then gets an unwelcome visitor, Shiwan Khan, who came to calling, if you will, and he wants Lamont, and he knows his real name, as it turns out. His Tibetan king, opium dealing
When
name.
he was working over there as a naughty guy before he became the Shadow, his name was legendary.
Yes.
Everyone admired him. Well, all the Bent guys
feared him
admired him
too.
anyway, and feared him a little bit. But this guy, I respected you and everything else, and blah 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 blah. And he joined forces with me, and he said no.
Yeah, and he
He got really annoyed.
yes, he wanted a partner in crime in this case, and
Batman hand Robin. Why not?
yeah. Anyway, Lamont says he's no longer that man anymore, but it doesn't stop him from telling him that he'll meet him again soon, and he throws him an interesting coin that's made of bronzium, I think.
Bronzium. They call it bronzium. Yeah.
It sounds a little bit like bronze, only not.
Well, no, it's bronze maybe with something else, but he gets it checked out, and supposedly it's...
Yeah, by his new member, the scientist I mentioned, who we saved earlier on.
And he analysed it, and he said, "Oh, you can't..." And he said, "This is a remarkable sort of element, whatever, metal, and you can use this to make a bomb or something or other, if you had enough..."
Yeah, and according to the scientist guy, he says such a device doesn't exist
At the moment.
But as it turns out, Margot's dad
is actually building
building
something.
it.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Shiwan Khan starts controlling the
Daddy.
poor Daddy Dearest.
And he becomes under his control to make this bomb mechanism as fast as possible so they can use it to blow up the area.
Yeah, while this is happening...
Or actually to use it as a threat to blow up the area because he wanted to extort a lot of money out of the city. Yeah.
Margot hears, is told that she's no longer allowed to talk to or even associate with her dad.
No, he wasn't taking any calls. He said
Not taking any calls, not accepting visitors, yada.
He did that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And she says that she was confused because she tells the police chief, who was having another dinner date with Lamont, she tells him that her dad was acting confused, baffling, and he was speaking in Chinese.
And he doesn't speak Chinese.
Yes, meaning something wicked is happening.
Something wicked this way comes.
Lamont figures out what's going on, and he takes his leave. And Margot tries to follow him, and he tries to use his influencing powers to tell her to
He's
forget
a bit
about
like
him.
a Jedi that way, isn't he?
But it doesn't work technically because
See, she's got the ESP and things. Part of her frontal lobe, which handles that sort of stuff, is quite active.
yeah.
So
So while this is he then ducks out into his taxi and he heads on down to the warfare department place. That's where her father works in the war department.
Exactly.
Yes, so he heads down there at the Shiwan Khan's goons are there ready to escort uh, Dr. Lane to their secret
Yeah, with his
headquarters.
little machine he made.
Yes, so a shadow appears there, but he gets tackled by the goons, and they even find his shadow and nailed him against the wall.
Yeah, they use a flashlight to uh, look around the room, and it casts a shadow upon the wall.
Yeah, and
Someone told them something, eh? Yeah.
yeah, eventually he does get one of them, but instead of telling him any news, he decided to take his own life, saying he's going to serve his car by not telling the shadow anything.
Yeah, so
And I like this bit because when he falls, the taxi driver, the
shadow's using.
he says, "I sense someone's coming," and he was
plonk,
reading, and he
yeah.
was reading, "How to Know If You're Psychic"
psychic.
book.
Yeah, and the
It was
guy
hilarious.
just hit the pavement about the same time. Okay, but, I mean, there's a bit of humour thrown in here, like in all good superhero movies.
Yeah, and he then drives the Phantom off to his home because he's very badly injured from the attack.
He got a few cuts and bruises. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not like Superman.
Meanwhile,
No.
Margot gets a call from home from her dad, telling her to come to the lab at once. And so she comes there,
Come
and
to the lab and see
she's
what's on the slab.
and she
Sorry.
sees the security men dead, the lab trashed by the
Yeah, like-
Phantom and by the Shadow and
The
the
cleaner's
goons.
going to be really pissed off. Yeah.
And she gets under the control of Shiwan Khan, and he asks her to go and kill the Shadow.
Yeah, so she grabs a little gun. One bullet, wasn't it?
Yeah, one
Only
bullet.
one bullet. Don't need one bullet. Yeah.
And well, when she enters Lamont's house, and she attempts to shoot, but actually shoots a mirror.
The mirror of it, a reflection of him.
Yeah, luckily
And she's
enough.
standing there in a daze, and Lamont just walks up and grabs the gun, and all of a sudden, she snaps out of it.
Yeah, and he demands straight out, "Why are you here, and who sent you?" And she says that she heard a voice in her head telling her to kill the Shadow. And now she put two and two together and,
And came up
figured out
93.
yes, and came out with
Aha.
that Lamont is the Shadow, and she says that she needs his help badly, and he says that he'll go off and try to find out what to do, and while she must leave his apartment while he's gone. Well, not his apartment. I mean, he's
Well-
living in a mansion.
Well, yeah, but you must leave here while I'm gone. Yeah.
And she, as he
As he
leaves,
curls up on the sofa with a blankie in front of the fire and says that.
yeah, and
yeah.
as she's as watches him leaves, she says, "How you know if I won't tell anyone?" And he says, "I know." You know.
The shadow knows everything.
Anyway, he heads off down to his sanctum, but he gets sort of what's the word? He gets tailed by one of Shiwan Khan's men. And thanks to his powers, he blends in with the shadows in one scene.
Hence.
And then he follows the tailor.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Well,
tail.
The guy who's tailing him, he turns around and tails the guy who's tailing him.
Yeah, he soon
The
arrives.
hunter becomes the hunted.
Yeah,
Aha.
soon he arrives in Chinatown, and he follows him to a Chinese restaurant, and and there in modern day clothing, Shiwan Khan is there, and he says, and then the shadow, Lamont tells him, "You sent Margot Lane to kill me," and he says, and then Shiwan Khan wants to know if he killed her, and he says, "Nah, I haven't," and he thinks that now that she knows your identity is in danger, all that stuff. And,
You would think.
And Lamont tries to tell him that I know what you're planning, and I'm gonna stop you in a sarcastic way.
Yeah. Mm.
Of course, while they're talking, Shiwan Khan shows him a rare knife, and this knife, you may not have noticed.
Well, they won't because you didn't tell them to begin.
Okay, I'll tell you guys now. It once belonged to the monk that dear old Lamont was training under.
It's a magical knife which has a life of its own.
And somehow Lamont has made this knife a really dangerous opponent.
Yeah.
And because this knife doesn't really like him very much,
Yeah.
and
it takes on the personality of the owner, I think.
yeah, I like to think it mirrors anyone's hatred or
Well, no, whoever owns it. You're like a genie of a lamp. the lamp has got all the power, but it can only do the power or the bidding of the person who's actually the owner
I
of the
have a
lamp.
different theory.
Yeah,
Like
but
it mirrors another person's hatred.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If the person who's taken control of the knife, if he's an evil guy, the knife will do evil. Whereas it belonged to the monk guy, even though it might kill somebody, it wouldn't kill a good person, only kill a bad person.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
but I
Yep.
think it just mirrors someone else's hatred. While Lamont tries to grab the knife and tries to stab Shiwan Khan, but he couldn't master it because the knife was
is too
stronger,
strong, yeah.
and all that. Eventually,
Anyway, moving on.
moving along, so his tail. I mean, the Shiwan Khan's man appears and holds a gun on Lamont. But luckily enough, Lamont uses his mind powers to turn him against his master, and
pretty good,
and he was able to grab the gun, and they end up shooting one another, and the bullets kind of impact.
Yeah, that's really good. Shiwan Khan and the Shadow fire
Bullets at
a
one
pistol at each other in a dead straight line of each other, and the two bullets hit in the middle and fall to the floor. And Shiwan Khan was astounded.
Yeah, and
he
then-
looked a bit shocked.
Yeah. Anyway, Shiwan Khan then leaps out the window and heads towards a waiting motorcycle. You know.
It looks like a bit of a rickshaw on a motorbike.
Yeah,
Interesting.
And then Lamont follows behind by getting to his taxi, and they try to tail them, but they disappear.
Yeah, and the reason being is
I'm not. Don't tail them just yet.
no.
They end up in a desert. They arrive at a deserted lot.
Yeah, a
that's-
deserted part in the city where there used to be a big building,
Yeah.
a skyscraper, or a big apartment block or something. Yeah.
Yeah, moving on. Soon enough, Lamont heads back to his apartment where dear old Margot is waiting, and she says that she cannot forget what she knows about him. And he says, "Why don't you stay for the night?"
There's a spare bed. He said he
And-
is very nice as a
And
gentleman.
here in this scene, as she's looking at him, she says she's not afraid of him, but Lamont adds, "But I am," meaning he's afraid of what he could do to her.
Yeah, because he still has his evil self
Yeah.
inside.
Well, we
Under
just-
control. Yes.
True, but
But-
he's oh anyway, he later that night he has a dream, and he dreams that he tore off his skin and he was someone else underneath,
Yeah, wasn't Shiwan Khan underneath?
Yeah.
Yeah.
making him realize how much he could be
Just like him.
like him, like how much of a monster he could be.
Yes. And then she had a different dream.
Yeah,
lying naked
a very
on the beach or
sexy
something.
one. Ooh.
We didn't get to see her dream.
Yeah, I'm glad. Anyway, Lamont was turned on by that one.
Oh, yeah, I would have been too.
I'm kind of glad we don't see any sex scenes in this movie.
No, actually, some of these movies like this don't have sex scenes. And there was no sex in this movie.
Yeah.
It wasn't even implied sex.
Yeah. Anyway,
interesting.
Margot then turns things around by saying she wants to help Lamont in the end.
Yeah, nice.
Even though he wants her to leave and not take part in any of this, whatever he's got up his sleeve. But doesn't change things because she needs him, and she needs him to find her father and help him. So that was the end of the kayak conversation.
Right, yeah. Moving right along.
Eventually, as they're walking down the street, they discuss that they need a Brimian spear
A beryllium sphere.
for the outer layering of the bomb.
Now, you think that beryllium. Where have you heard that before? Come on, there's a comedy sci-fi. With Tim Allen in it, Galaxy Quest. They needed a beryllium sphere to power the spaceship. Remember?
Yes, now I remember. Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest, yeah.
Anyway, moving right along.
Sorry.
So the only person they know that might have a beryllium sphere is that Claymore guy.
Yeah.
Turning out, and so the Phantom makes a visit down there, but before he could do that, he tells Margot to go to the newspapers to find everything she can know about a vacant lot that was where Khan disappeared to.
Yeah.
Yes. So she goes off to the newspapers while he goes tailing Claymore. And he does eventually tail him, but this is during the daylight hours, and that means his shadow is seen, and he gets shot in the
In the shadow.
in the shoulder. I like to think it was the shoulder.
Oh, yeah, you got a bullet mark or something on your
Yeah.
shoulder, yeah.
Eventually, he was he was inside a very big tank thing. I'm not sure what it is. It's round.
Yeah, I don't know, it had something to do, but it had
Deals with water,
a lot of
obviously.
water they can pump into it, so, but I don't know, it had something to do with fish or something. I don't know what
I
it
know
was.
that Claymore was into water pressure stuff. I don't know if this
It could have
sends
been a water pressure testing thingy machine. I don't
Yeah,
know, but
so he left him locked in there and plans on leaving him to drown to death.
and he almost did.
Yeah, thankfully he uses his mind powers to contact Margot to try to get him out.
Use the force, Luke. Sorry, I'm just trying that one on.
Yeah, so luckily enough, those other bullet holes that kind of penetrated
the outer skin,
outer
so they'll
skin.
breathe a little bit of air from
Yes.
the outside to keep him alive until she got there.
Yeah, luckily
What a
enough.
clever little fellow.
Agreed. So anyway, she arrives and she finally opens the thing up, and finally gets out, and
Surfs up.
and she approaches him after getting wet a couple times, and she says, "You called," and they both laughed. Later that night, while Lamont is recovering from his wounds, Margot's there, tending to him, and she sees into his mind his past, and it's very upsetting and creepy.
And she still didn't get scared off. What
Yeah.
a strong female she is.
Yeah, and Lamont tells her that he just can't forgive himself for what he's did or done.
Indeed, whatever, nothing.
Yeah, and she says, whatever you done or did,
It's in the past.
it's in the past. But
You're not that man anymore.
But for Lamont, that will never be, because he feels like that will always be never in the past for him. But it doesn't stop him from continuing working hard. Later that very night, the William sphere is installed. The bomb is inside the William sphere, and the next part to the plan starts forming, where a lot of the media start circulating that a madman is attempting to blow up New York
Well,
High.
threatening to blow it up, but he's holding the New York to ransom for how much was it?
Billions, I think it was.
Yeah.
And
A shitload of money.
hey, don't swear.
Sorry. Lots of money.
Yeah, he asks for famous works of art, famous jewels, even gold. A lot of that stuff.
Yes, yeah.
I don't know if this would please dear old Khan or his assailants very much. I don't know. I don't see them as interested in that or anything about portraits. I don't think so. Anyway, moving back along. So, Margaret tells Lamont about what she found about the lot, and it turns out to be it used to belong to a person who was trying to build a hotel, but it was never opened.
Yes, because some Asian guy bought it, and
Well, that was before that. I mean, see, the original owner went bankrupt and committed suicide.
And then someone bought it, an Asian person then.
But they thought it was condemned, the property, but no one remembers when or where or who has condemned the property.
That's what I was just to say. All the record is an Asian person bought it, and then all of a sudden, the records went weird.
Yeah, because they thought that the property was
Demolished for some reason, but there's
no
no
one.
records or anything.
Yeah, everyone knows that it was torn down, but they can't remember
How,
when
when, or
or
where.
who or when it took place.
Yeah,
And they soon arrive at that spot again, and there, Lamont sees what no one else has seen. Tall, very tall
the monolith.
hotel.
Hotel Monolith. What a great name. And he realises nobody else can see it. He sees through he's not controlled by the mass hypnosis that this Shiwan Khan has done over the city.
Yeah.
Everyone apart from him is blind to the fact there's a building there.
Yeah, so, and no one doesn't even know. So he then arranges for Margot and his taxi driver to meet at this location and
Just
wait for
wait.
further instructions. Anyway, later that
And
night.
it's raining.
So later that night, um, um, the Dr. Lane is Professor
Lang.
Lane
Sorry.
is putting the final touches and setting the timer for
A 2-hour timer on the bomb,
Yeah.
and Shiwan Khan and his henchmen and whatever are getting ready to fly out.
yeah, and leaving Lane to holding the bag or holding the baby.
Because they don't need him anymore.
Yes, and because now he has Claymore, who could probably reproduce another bomb if necessary.
Yeah, on another city.
If necessary. Moving right along.
Moving right along.
Sorry, guys.
She's coughing. It's my turn before. Now it's her turn.
So, eventually, the Phantom. I don't know why I said
The Phantom.
sorry.
The Shadow. We did the Phantom last time.
Sorry. Anyway, the Shadow sends messages to both Margot and his taxi driver to meet at the spot
He said that.
later that night, and he arrives there and he starts sneaking around and all that stuff, and he then Shiwan Khan sends his henchmen, including Claymore, to go and kill the Shadow. And unfortunately, Claymore got the most horrible of deaths.
He finds him, unfortunately.
Yeah, and he does the same thing as the other guy did. Tries to shoot the Shadow. Shooting everywhere. Bam, 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 bam. But missed. And eventually, the Shadow appears and sends him a little bit bonkers. And he, Claymore, ends up crashing and killing himself. Or
So you say, there's go for the exit, and it was actually the Shadow made him think this window was an exit, so he went there and jumped out the window.
Yeah, and kill himself instantly.
Laughing all the way down to the ground.
Crash. Anyway,
Splat.
so moving right along, he then goes to Shiwan Khan's suite or
rooms, yeah,
and
I guess.
they try to have it out, but unfortunately, Shiwan Khan is prepared for this. He then has his room on a turntable thing, whatever they call it.
The floor becomes weird and wiggly and
wiggly.
Yeah,
and he then summons the knife, and it starts hurting the Shadow by zooming him across the room,
trying to
stabbing him in
attack
the
him
shoulder,
and
soon enough the Shadow is starting to lose getting weak from this.
But all of a sudden.
But then, he knows right away when he's wiping the blood from his face, the knife itself, who's transformed with little hands and
face.
Which makes me think of a little bit of like a scorpion, because it does have a scorpion-like tail. Anyway,
it emulated his movements.
Yeah, as I said, it's a mirror. He's mirror reflecting his opponent, which makes me think he's doing probably the same thing as his opponent, thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
And he's about to stab him in the throat, but Lamont is, I guess, in this moment when he's trying to let go of his hate.
Yeah, and he let go, and he turned the knife.
He turns the tables on Khan by having the knife sent off into Khan's stomach.
Got him in the stomach.
And soon enough, his power over Dr. Lane and everyone in the city, soon everyone starts seeing the building.
Where'd that come from? I don't know. Where did
Yeah, making them realize, oh gosh, this crazy man was right.
Bugger.
Anyway, soon enough, they head inside. Well, Margot and the taxi driver head inside. They come across her dad, and of course they have to disarm the bomb while.
Oh, Dad's colorblind too, mind you.
Yeah, moving right along.
Red wire, green wire,
Yeah. While this is happening, Lamont chases after our Shiwan Khan to his basement where there's lots of mirrors. There was going to be for this scene, it was going to be they're going to go make this a bit longer because for some reason there was a bit of an earthquake at the time that kind of destroyed the scene set, so they had to cut it really short. So
it's not that noticeable.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's still effective. It's still wonderful. I like this whole mirror thing. It makes me think of Enter the Dragon, where there was a mirror scene in that one, where the
Or
hero
Mirror Maze at the county fair.
where the hero has to work out the difference between the images and illusions, sort of thing.
That's been done in a few movies.
True, true. Anyway, he then eventually breaks and shatters all the mirrors and stuff like that, and he takes one that's the size of a knife.
Yeah, big shard.
And
broken
stabs it
glass.
right into Shiwan Khan's forehead.
Right into his frontal lobe.
Yeah.
You know where this is heading, don't you?
Yeah. Later, and soon the police arrive, and they're confused, baffled, why there's a big motel right in the middle of in where an empty lot was.
Yeah, for years.
And soon enough, we then cross over to Shiwan Khan in a cell. And
an insane asylum, if you
Yes.
will.
yeah, and he tries to hypnotize his therapist,
A
but
bit like a Jedi Knight.
unfortunately, nothing happens.
Because the glass shard punctured that part of his brain, which governs that telepathy.
Yeah,
ESP,
according to
whatever.
Wikipedia, they removed his that
Part of his frontal
lobe, which had his psychic abilities at.
Yeah, and the funny part is the guy who's he's trying to hypnotise and control has a ring on his finger, just like the Shadows. He's one of the Shadows' agents.
Yeah, hint,
Ah.
hint. Thanks to the shadow, he's
He's locked up, so he can't do any more damage or harm to anybody.
Then we fade in on Margot and Lamont having a passionate kiss farewell.
Slobber, slobber, slobber. And the tongue come out his
Yeah,
ear.
and he says his farewell, and as he walks away, she says, "Hey, where can I find you?" And he says, no, not the other way. I mean, it was the other way around.
Yes.
She says, "Where will you find me?" And he says,
I'll
"I'll know." And then
Mr.
he
Shadow
walks off
knows
to his
everything.
sanctum and on to his next mission. The end.
Ta-da! I'm not going to say too much about this movie.
Yeah, well, it's not some
No,
movie.
well, it's a good movie, but there's not much to say about production and different things and sets. I mean, it is what it is. Good set design, good storyline, good acting. But these period superhero sort of things, the Phantom, Shadow. There's one of that Cumberbatch fellow, Doctor Death, Doctor Strange. Same sort of thing. It's period stuff, and it's really hard. A lot of movies nowadays rely on CGI and lots of good groovy things, and
Well, this has a bit of CG.
but it's going backwards in time. It's backdating it. They're using some CGI stuff to help make it work, but in the end, they're going back, not doing a sci-fi or anything. Bringing all technology into it.
Yeah.
They're actually not having technology, which makes it a little bit harder to.
Yeah, another thing I
work
should
with.
mention here, guys, in the opening credits, they incorrectly listed the Advanced Magazine Publishers, Inc., as the creators of the Shadows,
okay.
But the version seen in the movie was originally created by Street and Smith Publications
Okay.
to promote its detective story magazine in 1930. So they kind of made a mistake with the information.
No, things happen.
But then again, it's a lot of people make mistakes, so I won't hold it against them.
Anyway, the idea was to actually take the old comics and the old serials and everything else, radio serials, and bring it to life on the movie. And I think they've done it quite well. A bit like the Phantom, they've tried to capture it and they've done it well. I'm not going to go against sets and whatever.
Another thing I should mention, the knife that's called
Frodo, whatever it's called.
it actually means the ghost dagger in Tibet.
The Purba or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Yeah, it actually means ghost dagger.
Well, there you go then.
Kind of cool, don't you think, guys?
Me.
Another thing I should mention, in 2015, Kapow Entertainment made a sequel short film called The Shadow, and it's a story about Lamont's son, Harry,
Yep.
and he was played by Jesse Covey.
Okay. Cove.
Cove. I mean, I've seen that one, and it's not too bad. And I do feel bad that that one didn't get into
Now,
anything advanced when I think about it.
now, a bit of information, a bit of background. The guy who did the screenplay, David Cope, had Alec Baldwin in mind when he was actually writing the script.
That is cool.
So he tailor-made his writing of the script to suit Alec Baldwin.
That's nice of
Wait a
him.
minute, not finished. And some of the humour that was brought into the movie was actually done by Alec Baldwin. It wasn't actually in the script, as far as I'm aware. So, but they knew he'd actually add to the story.
I see.
The acting.
Ad-libbed here and there.
Ad-libbed a little bit and brought some humour into it. Same way when you do a James Bond movie, you had Sean Connery played it reasonably serious with a bit of humour thrown in. Roger Moore put a bit more humour into it, and that's just coming out of their own personalities. Yeah.
Yeah, another thing I should mention, the scene in which the Shadow rescues that professor guy on the bridge is based off the opening of The Living Shadow, the first Shadow novel, in which the Shadow saves a man from suicide on a Brooklyn Bridge.
Brooklyn Bridge, yeah.
This scene is turned reasonably a scene from what's it called? From, I don't know what that word.
What does it show me? What is it? Yeah, it's a foreign word. Honor de Balzac's Voltron novel, whatever it is.
Yeah, but I gotta admit, this one is a lot more better,
mouthful,
dealing with gangsters trying to throw a man overboard and throwing him over a bridge.
With
like
concrete shoes on.
Yeah, like in those gangster movies.
Yeah. That's supposed to be very popular back in those days. From the East River, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
I wonder if the guy, what's his name? Agent Ness ever encountered that sort of thing.
Well, Agent Ness, old Elliot, he was based in Chicago anyway.
I suppose.
And he was just dealing with ordinary hoodlums who probably kept the concrete
business
working overtime. Who knows?
I ought to one day do a review on, if we can. Do you think we can review Dick Tracy one day?
Well, he's another sort of superhero type guy.
Not now, guys. I'm not going.
We're not going to do another one next time, tomorrow or whatever. Next one, but yeah, we might do the Dick Tracy one because Warren Beatty really did a pretty good, cool Dick Tracy.
It's weird. Whenever I think of him, it's hard to see him in any other role because I think that role made him, but at the same time,
it didn't actually make. He was in Bonnie and Clyde years ago.
I know that,
and he was also Heaven Can Wait and other movies.
I know,
but
this movie kind of. He kind of suited being Dick Tracy.
He looked the part.
Just like Alec Baldwin suited playing Shadow.
If you look at the old...
And just like Bill Zane.
Billy Zane. Billy Zane worked out to give himself a body like the Phantom and whatever.
It's just a bit sad
when you go back to Dick Tracy, the Dick Tracy comics that I grew up on, Dick Tracy looked a bit like the Warren Beatty real human being. So when they actually chose Warren Beatty to be Dick Tracy, it was an easy match.
I gotta admit though, when I think about Billy and and that guy from Dick Tracy, they're the only ones who haven't got any other major awesome roles since then.
Well, I don't know what Warren Beatty's doing. I'm not following his career.
Apart from Billy Zane doing Charm Ones, which is only a bit of snafu appearance.
Was it?
Well, he was in the Charm Ones, the witch show.
I didn't know that.
He was great in that, and I loved it when he was hanged out with Phoebe. She was pretty cute.
Lucky.
Moving right along.
And he was in Titanic.
Yeah, true. Anyway, let's get back to this movie.
Anyway, I can't think. I mean, they did this over. It was shot at Universal Backlight in Hollywood on 5 sound stages.
Cool.
And it was filmed over 60 days. And they did a 5-day mini tour to do some location shooting there. And a week was lost when the earthquake happened.
Oh
because
no.
it obviously destroyed the sets and stuff and everything.
That's bad.
Yeah,
Well, as I said, I know some of you guys are probably wondering why they never did that extra bit, and you're probably wishing the studios were being too lazy. But bear in mind, they were trying their hardest to get it all finished in time for you guys to watch.
had me ready for Christmas. Wait, when did it open? Hang on, where is it? July. That'd be summer holidays in America.
Yeah, true.
And they put out, the school had a summer holiday break, and they wanted to get it for the summer holidays, so the kids would have something to go to the theatre and see.
Yeah, as I said,
to get them out of the house for a few minutes.
yeah, as I said before, back then, if I saw the shadow, I would probably be running in the opposite direction because I'd be scared of a mask.
Yeah, but what's made for kiddies?
I know,
Yeah,
but I was little. I was into Disney movies and stuff like that before they acted funny.
Yeah, well, good. Hey, I like the old Disney movies. I mean, they're good family ones, and even ones similar, like the Seven Faces of Dr. Lau. I don't think that was a Disney movie.
No, it never was.
No, but it was very similar to a Disney style movie. I mean, those sort of movies are great family fun, and those were really box office really good.
But I always think that sometimes people from Disney may, the crew I'm talking about, and some of the filmmakers, they may have sometimes worked with other studios.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
Just so that they're not confined to just one studio.
they might have been on loan sometimes, but if you're a makeup artist or a DOP or an audio person, whatever, sound recordist, you might be in a contract. You're working there on wages.
I mean, that's
that one studio.
That's one of the reasons why some sort of styles that you notice in studios that you notice in another set of movies, and you know right away that it came from that set of people.
They might have been lent. But here's a good one, where a good collaboration thing and cooperation between studios. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? People forget about that in movies like that. All the people involved, all the cartoons, all the animated figures, they didn't come from the one studio.
That's true.
So they had to get the studios who actually own the licensing of all those animated creatures, and get Betty Boop, the lady who did the voice for Betty Boop, was still around. They got her out of retirement to do the voice for Betty Boop. That logistic nightmare, bringing all this together and getting licenses and permits and stuff to bring it all together in the one movie.
One thing that comes to mind, Mike, is Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Yeah.
Is that a Disney movie or is it or is that
No, I think Who Framed Roger Rabbit was a Disney movie, but they might have collaborated with some other studios at the same time because of. But I think it was primarily a Disney one.
I see.
I think.
Yeah.
Could be wrong, but I think it was Disney.
Because considering that there was Warner Brothers cartoons involved in it too.
I know, so I said they had to get a permission from Warner Brothers to use their cartoon characters in the Disney movie. But I think it was a Disney movie, but they had to get Warner Brothers and other people to agree to using it. And why not?
Anyway, moving back to this
Jessica
movie.
Rabbit always floated my boat.
Shut up.
Sorry.
So, anyway, back to this movie. We're drifting away again.
Anyway, again, the critics were mixed. It was average to good with the critics. One guy didn't like it. Who cares?
Could you tell us the reviews? I would love to hear
I'm not going to
those.
go for all the reviews.
Just read the...
There's nothing major jumping out. Okay, give me a moment. Just talk amongst yourselves for a moment. Let's go through my notes. Rotten Tomatoes.
Intermission, people.
They gave the approval rating of 35% based on 48 critics. They said, bringing a classic pulp character to the big screen, The Shadow features impressive visual effects, but the story ultimately fails to strike a memorable chord. That doesn't mean it's bad, just the people who voted didn't like the storyline. Okay? Audience surveyed by CinemaScope gave a grade B on a scale of A to F, which means it got a good grading, but there's no comment.
That's a rating.
Owen Gleiberman from Entertainment Weekly gave the film a D grade, adding...
A D?
A D grade, adding the trouble with setting a special effects fantasy in a low-tech 20s environment is that unless the American kitsch elements are injected with something approaching Steven Spielberg's speedy bravado, we become all too aware that the actors are simply standing around B-movie sets spouting cardboard dialogue.
Oh, brother.
And later on, he said, would later place the film on its list of the 21 worst comic book movies ever.
Ding ding, moron alert.
How rude, moron alert. Michael Washington from the Chicago Tribune gave his take on the film. The Shadow shows what can happen when you overdress pulp. You wind up with something gorgeous and suffocated, bejeweled trash floundering in its own over-splendid stuffings.
Hey, Mike, you said before it was giving good positive vibes.
No,
Why
they
is
were,
this
but
one?
wait a minute.
One has so
And
many.
Robert Ebert from the Chicago Sun-Times gave it 3 out of 4 stars. He can be getting good again, and said, if you respond to film noir, if you like dark streets and women with scarlet lips and big fast cars and with running boards, the look of this movie will work some kind of magic. So it's another positive. So it's mixed. A couple of bad, a couple of mediocre, a couple of good.
Oh man, these people are weird.
But it would have done a lot better box office if The Lion King and The Mask didn't hit the streets at the same time. So there you go. At least broke even.
I suppose.
And we don't know what it did in home media. So yeah, who knows?
I don't get these people, especially the part where they say the way they talk, spout the stuff.
It gets back to critics liking or not liking a particular movie because they don't like that style, that genre. If you've experienced them yourself over the years, of different people. I don't like science fiction movies, so I'll give it a 0. That's not a review. That's just personal taste saying I don't like science fiction movies. If someone said, hey, I really, really love science fiction movies, standing right next to them, they might give them 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
So it's personal taste when it comes to the reviewers.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
Even if it's a movie that's been well loved all over the world and it's getting lots of rewards for it,
Well, we've done that. We've reviewed some movies over the past year and a half, which have done really good at box office, but the critics didn't like them because they didn't like that style of movie. And conversely, there's some movies the critics liked and they died in the bum at the box office.
Yeah, or say for instance it did well in the box office, but still the studio refused to make it and make a sequel out of it.
Or it was everyone didn't like it, then become a cult classic that everyone has liked since it stopped being shown at the theatre, and it's probably done a monster on home media. Yeah, you can't follow up on everything. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to give this. I won't give it a 10 because I think it could have been just a tad better. I'll give it a 9.
I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 for me because I do like that period and I do like the fact that there was something incredible there. I know I say this a lot about some movies out there, but there's something there, like even if it's noir filming, that you can just see something wonderful, magical, and something old world about it.
Actually, speaking of noir, I have to talk to Sarah about this when she's in a good frame of mind. I'm going to try to show her some of the old film noir. The selected ones, like I think the Maltese Falcon would fall into that.
Actually, I did watch that already.
Did you?
Yeah.
And you look at the style of the filming; it's really, really good. There's something about it, and
I like it, but I just wish the story was a little bit less. It was a little weak in the story.
Yeah, but there are other movies.
I know that.
Well, you see, Casablanca wasn't quite film noir, but
it was pretty credible too.
But the same sort of period. But the Maltese Falcon, that's the film, and maybe even the Charlie Chan movies.
Yeah,
and the
I like
Mr.
the
Moto
Charlie
movies.
Chan stuff. Mike's shown me a couple of those.
There's something about they're short and sweet, little over an hour, not quite an hour and a half. straight to the point, getting there, a little bit of action, good storyline. The heroes win, the bad guys don't. They go to jail, get killed off, whatever.
Yeah.
A really good, friendly little piece. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen those, and I've seen
Yeah.
the original Shadow movie, years ago. He was
Oh, yeah,
he
yeah.
was a little different. Like he was a man with a double identity, where everyone else doesn't know who he is. They just naturally assume that he's just a shadowy man with that no one knows about.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, let's wind her up because we need to let these good folks go to bed.
So, thanks for watching this latest podcast.
Listening,
Or would you
watching.
shut up?
Yeah, they could be watch their iPads. Ooh, look at the wiggly line. Yeah.
So, thanks for listening to this latest podcast, folks. So, this is Sarah Stephenson
And Michael.
saying, the shadow knows, or Sarah knows. See you next
How
time.
about Sarah knows the Bergerac? Sarah knows. No. Goodbye, folks.